What is going on, everybody? Did I move my camera? I think I did somehow. My name is Destin Noak, Texas Garden Guy, and this is the Garden Party. This is the Garden Party, and we want a garden party with you. We talk about the plants we grow and some things you might not know. The Garden Party. Welcome to the Garden Party, everybody. Phil, introduce yourself, dude.
Hey, everybody. It's favorite plant parrot, regular parrot, juggling the two on his favorite podcast, The Garden Party.
Yeah,
Don't tell
man.
Destin what I said.
What did you say? What did you say? I'm always convinced that you're going to sneak something about me in the intro.
I'm too nice. I'm too nice a guy for that.
That's very true. You're a very nice Carolinian. I appreciate you being on. You know what's funny, dude? I was looking at a map today, and I didn't realize, you see it from from Pennsylvania. I didn't realize Delaware was right there, inside of Phil, Pennsylvania, like that. I didn't know Delaware
first state, the very first one.
It's nuts. I didn't realize. I was thinking about it. I listened to a show called The Dozen on Barstool, and they do a geography question, and one of the questions is which states circle or let's say is this state has 5 states encompassing it, and it gives you the 4 states, and you got to name the 5th one and then the inside one. And I was like, I didn't know Phil Pennsylvania touches Delaware. It's so weird. But
does my little corner.
It's but I that is the trademark garden party buffer. But yeah, no. When you're from Texas, everywhere else is just everywhere else, so you don't really know. Des, welcome back to the garden party. How are you doing?
Some of us from Texas know about other states and where they are.
I'm not nearly as cultured or as world traveled as you are, Des. You gotta understand that.
Hey everybody, how's it going? We have a thunderstorm in the area, which is nice. It's actually been raining here quite a bit, which has been kind of unusual for us for the last couple of years. We had some rock and thunder the last couple of nights, and it woke us up out of a dead sleep. And the dog has been freaking out at night, so I haven't had to water my garden in a couple of days. I'm very excited about it.
It's nice not having to water the garden. That's the best thing about rain. And it's so much better for your garden than hard public city water or whatever. You're on a well, or you're on city water?
Oh no, I'm on city water. Austin has great water. Yeah. We have good water. Good. Yeah, we have great water here. Totally.
I figured you hippies had good water.
we care about our aquifers and stuff. I don't know what to say.
It's got the minerals.
I'm down here in Houston. It's all nasty mud water.
No.
Happy to have you. I was in the area this past weekend, and so we can talk about that here in a little bit. But I want to introduce a first-time guest, someone we've never had on before, who a lot of you probably know. Welcome, Jess from Roots and Refuge. What's going on, Jess? How you doing?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here tonight. I love talking about gardening and all the things that pertain to it. So I'm super happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Woo-hoo. Yes.
I'm super excited you're here.
Des was I'm fangirling out. This is going to be so exciting.
I actually am. Okay. Because I don't know if you know.
It well. You're saying
you got this, Des.
You literally wouldn't have no way of knowing this, but I have been following your journey since probably close to when you started posting on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
And awesome. I remember when you were living not on the land you're in now, but when you had that garden adjacent to the house there, and it was always so abundant. And I was such an aspiring gardener, and I swear to you, I would sit there and just eat up every word you said about gardening. So I am so excited that you're here, and I can't wait to talk to you about all the cool things you've been building on your new property over the last 4 years. I think it's so awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate that. Whenever I first started making content, it was I was so enthusiastic about gardening, and I didn't have a community of gardeners that I could geek out with. I didn't have anybody that wanted to have a garden party. And so I I
got one
started
now.
sharing. I started sharing, and I remember like my first garden
in.
tour I ever shot. It was 40 minutes long, and then this is 2018. So this is back whenever like all the people who were telling you how to do YouTube were like, keep it under 10 minutes. Nobody wants to watch really long form videos. But like, obviously, I couldn't cover my whole garden in 10 minutes. It was huge.
No.
But I was just like, well, I remember saying in the video, well, I won't bore you guys all with all of the details of the varieties and everything. And everyone was like, no, we want to know this stuff. So my next garden tour was like an hour. And I just geeked out and found my people. And it has been the greatest blessing, I think.
I was one of those people.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Seriously.
That's
Right.
so cool because I think you got in right before like the huge I want to say like the migration
yeah.
from people from like moving down to the Carolinas, people moving out of California, moving out, like I think you got in like right before like the big migration. You want to give people a little bit about your background? I'm sure most people know you, but like kind of like give a little bit of your backstory, like where y'all from originally and how y'all got started.
So I was born and raised in Arkansas, and I met my husband. I was 23, and I was a single mom. I had 2 children, and I told him on the beginning, I was like, listen, I want a homestead. I want a garden. I want to grow my own food. This was like this burning desire, and he didn't really want any of those things in his life, but I guess he really wanted me in his life. So he was like, I can do that. So like, we dove in, and now he is enthusiastic about it. It grew on him. But we moved out to a foreclosed property on 4 acres in central Arkansas in 2014. And we have a slew of kids between us. We have 6, his, mine, and ours. Ooh. And we started growing our food. And I dabbled a little bit in making YouTube. I had done some Instagram and stuff. I'm actually not tech savvy at all. And I had no goals or aspirations of like becoming an influencer. This was early on, before that was even really like a word that anybody used. But in 2018, I started doing really regular content, and it just kind of blew up. And 2019, experienced a lot of growth really around the garden and around that stuff. And so when COVID happened, we're still in Arkansas. We had been planning to move to South Carolina for a couple years. It had been like the place we wanted to be, but we were really broke and couldn't make it work. And then when YouTube really started to take off, we were kind of just like juggling all the things. And in 2020, when COVID started, I think we were sitting at like 200,000 subscribers or something like that. So pretty established in the space as far as content creation, and being like homesteaders and like, I guess, voices in that movement. But then the movement started moving. Like, it was like in like the first 2 months of COVID. So from March to May, like our channel doubled, like everything exploded, because obviously the world was like, they were home and they were typing into their computer, how do I grow food? A lot of people had seen empty grocery store shelves, like for the first time ever during the first panic of COVID and all that. And I'm very much like about preparedness and wisdom. I do not like the fear movement that kind of has happened through the prepping world. And so I'm very like anti-fear, like, hey, let's thrive and not just try to survive. I grow the garden because I love the garden and it does feed me. But so that's basically what we've been doing the last handful of years. 4 years ago, we moved out to South Carolina and upgraded from 4 acres to 27. And we have been since then just steadily building our farm up. We opened a coffee roastery and we roast coffee and work directly with farms like Fair Trade Coffee and stuff like that. And it's really awesome. Like, we're living the dream in all the ways, which is really incredible. I homeschool my kids and, it's awesome. Just get to like cook food and grow a garden and like live the good life. So I love it.
It was,
and like when you, sorry.
I was just going to say, I think that I found y'all's channel for the first time probably like in early 2019, late 2019, when my wife was home a lot and we were already gardening, but we didn't even know about starting a channel. And there's channels like yours, Sow the Land, Justin Rhodes, all those guys, Stony Ridge, they got me and into starting a channel and getting going. And it seemed like the people that already had a little bit of a library really were thriving, like right at the beginning. And it seems like it's been like a big boom ever since. Like, but like if you already had like a couple dozen videos, you were going to gain followers like crazy right at the beginning of 2018, 2019. So that's that worked out great for y'all, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, what were you saying, Des?
Oh, I was going to say, when you guys moved out to South Carolina too, that was completely raw land, right? Like you didn't even, was there a house on it at all or anything? Or you guys
No, it was raw. It's been a lot.
Cool.
We moved like a manufactured home on, and our plan was to build a house shortly after. And of course, as plans go, we haven't we kind of put that on the back burner, and we have like fully dedicated ourselves to like just getting the farm productive. And of course, we've built barns and greenhouses and all the fencing and all that stuff, the infrastructure, and we're still working on it. I mean, like we're working through a punch list in the garden right now, like all the finishing touches. I don't know exactly how much growing space I actually have, and I've downsized it recently, but it's still a lot. Like our garden's really big, so it takes a lot, but we also do it for beauty too. I mean, like it's a little bit extra, I guess you could say, but sometimes I am, so I'll own that.
Well, I don't know. I think any gardener given enough space will just keep gardening, like what is the max limit?
Yeah.
When will we find it?
That is Parkinson's law. We will, if we're given space, we will fill it.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
And it's just like,
and Phil, as someone who also moved like the Carolinas, what was was there like a specific reason why like Jess, you moved to South Carolina, Phil, you moved to North Carolina? Is it just because your job, Phil, or what was there like a deciding factor?
I originally moved here because of graduate school. So I paired with a professor for geology back in 2016. And when I came here, that's when I was like, this place is amazing.
Yeah.
The trick was if you could get a job in Wilmington at the time. Now Wilmington's blown up a lot in the past 10 years. And I would say that's very true for a lot of the Carolinas. And there's two factors to it. There's people moving south, and there's what I've learned is a term called halfbacks, and they're coming up from Florida. And
oh, really?
So they go down to Florida and they do a halfback and they come back up a little bit.
Halfway.
So yeah. So I've seen that influx as well. But the climate's pretty awesome here. It gets cold enough for it to snow, so it kills the bugs, is what people say. And then it kind of gets a little warmer again. I mean, Columbia, we have some of our coastal stuff. We're like, if you look at a hurricane map, Wilmington, North Carolina just is like covered with hurricane strike points, right? So like I feel like where you are in Columbia is a little safer from hurricanes. Not out of the woods, but a little safer.
Yeah, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law are actually not in Columbia. They're right there. He's in the Air Force still. But he's right there in the Columbia area, smaller little town right there outside of Columbia, I think. But they love it over there. They say it's beautiful.
You also
Carolinas
had
are
some
gorgeous.
hurricane, right? You had did you have anything from Helene at all?
Yeah, we did. Our town was devastated by Helene. Now, nothing like obviously what they dealt with up in the Asheville area, but like we lost a couple of oak trees, and I had some shade cloth get torn up. But like really, like my children's tree house that literally has all of their prized possessions in it had two massive oak trees flanking it. And like when the light came, it hit us when it's still dark. And it fell and just by some miracle completely missed their treehouse. I'm talking like it was built in between these two trees. The canopy like stretched over, like you could see into the trees out the windows. And the way they fell, it just barely clipped the corner. So we were very thankful, but we went without power for 8 days. And we spent the first like 2 days taking our equipment and just like getting all the trees off of our friends' like homes and propane tanks and like all that stuff. And it was really intense. And there was a ton of damage around here. You can still see it. Like when you drive around my town that I live close to, there's still a bunch of houses with tarps on their roofs and stuff like that. So the thing is that we were like, bad enough to be called devastated, but there were so many people so much worse off that it was kind of this weird in between, that the resources really needed to go elsewhere. So our town really had to kind of like scrap together and help each other, which it did. It was really inspiring to see.
Yeah.
Someone was asking the chat, and we're in Houston, so we deal with hurricanes. Bill, you deal with hurricanes. Is there anything you're doing like this year? Like, I mean, that was such a freak incident, like with the mudslides, like the water, the rain was right. It was the rain coming out of the valleys. Is there anything you're doing? Like, did y'all get a backup generator? Did y'all get anything?
So we already were pretty well prepared. Just being kind of preppery minded, I guess. Like, we already had generators and all that stuff. So it was actually, I'm not saying this flippantly. I know it's devastating for a lot of people. I'm not asking for another experience, but it was actually kind of fun. Like, we just made the most of it. And it was deeply uncomfortable to be without power for 8 days, but it was kind of like a solid test of all of our systems and everything that we had in place. I do find it really hilarious that we live 2 hours from the coast, and every hurricane in the, that was going to hit the East Coast since we've been here, I'm like, is this going to hit us? Is this going to hit us? And it's the one that comes up from the Gulf. Like,
yeah.
Like, what
the
weird
heck?
But
that was the weirdest.
But yeah, we haven't made any other like massive preparations or anything like that. I think we're about as settled as we can be right now. However, in the future, I mean, like, we'll probably build a storm shelter at some point, but honestly, after moving from Arkansas, like, the weather here kind of feels like a dream. Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't ever really feel like the weather is trying to kill me here. Whereas in Arkansas, that was pretty regular occurrence. So,
oh my God.
Yeah.
right now.
Well, and people need to understand, like, nowhere is like 100% safe. You're going to deal with something everywhere. There's, flash floods. The best thing you can do is just, pay attention to the experts, do what they recommend. And then honestly, like you were saying, trial by fire, seeing like how your systems work. Because I knew a bunch of people who had generators during Beryl and they didn't come on. They weren't doing their weekly checks. They weren't getting them maintained. So they weren't kicking on. So like
you can have that stuff goes bad in there.
Yeah. So even if they were hard lines, like their propane tanks or city, the switches, there was some kind of sensor, some kind of switch that wasn't working, and people couldn't go out there and manually turn them on. It was weird. It was real weird. So you definitely want to test your systems out. And I think a lot of people now have, like, my in-laws, they have one and it kicks on like once a week, like every Sunday at 11 a.m. it kicks on with ATS and comes right back on. So you definitely want to make sure you're not only acquiring the systems, but maintaining them. We can switch it up a little bit. I know you're in South Carolina, which is a garden party, so we're going to talk about gardening. What zone are you in? What zone are you in over there in South Carolina?
With the recent like reconfigurations of zones, they call us 8A. I kind of lean 7B just because I got so pumped when I first moved here. I was like, I can grow all this citrus. And I probably spent like $450 on citrus trees. Planted them all, and then they died. Like, most of them died the first year because we had the coldest winter in 100 years. And I'm like, that would happen to me. But
of course.
Yeah. And they were in my high tunnel. It still got too cold. But yeah, I kind of err to the caution of 7, but 7 to 8, somewhere in there. And we have a long season. The thing is, here is the winters are pretty mild. We can get down to where we have like 10-degree nights. That's the really cold extremes. There have been the first winter I was here before I bought the citrus trees. The coldest night of the entire winter was 24 degrees. So like, that's very mild. And it's hot here, but it's very different from Arkansas. It's just wet here. It rains pretty frequently. And so it's pretty common to have high 90s and extremely high humidity, but you'll get these showers throughout. And so I find the garden just stays so much more lush. It doesn't like burn to a crisp the way that it did. Because Arkansas was hot and it would be like 10 days with no rain and 100 degrees every day. So that's different. And my last frost this year ended up being like mid-March or something. It's been in the April, the other years I've been here. And then we usually don't freeze until like late October, mid-November, somewhere in there. So we have a long time to grow. It's awesome.
Yeah, that is nice.
That's
really nice.
do you do a lot of your stuff like indoors, like your seed starts and stuff? Are you starting early? Like I do my, peppers and tomatoes like really, really early. Do you start a lot of stuff indoors?
So I have a greenhouse. I have a greenhouse that we built out of repurposed windows. And then this year we bought one of those little, it is really pretty. It's big though. It's like 16 by 20. And we did this pitched roof and it's really hard to heat it when it is actually below freezing outside. It'll be extremely hot in there when it's sunny, and it does really well. But for starting in like January, it's a little iffy. And so we actually just built another little greenhouse from a kit that I got at Costco. So that's the black one is the one at the current property. The white one that you're seeing pulled up, that was our old greenhouse at our old property. That was like
that one.
I you know what? Because it was small, that one was like 8 by 10 and it had that shed roof. It held heat like nobody's business.
Yes.
But the one that we have now is gorgeous as it is. It has those issues. So we just built another small one that I'm calling my nursery greenhouse, and just caulked it super well and made it super heat tight. And I just put a little radiant heater in there, and it was awesome. So next year I'll start them earlier. I've been starting like February, mid to late February. But yeah, I start most of my garden from seed. And then grow year round.
I like my 12 by 20, but I think I would rather have like 3 or 4 smaller ones than one big one. Oh my gosh. Unless you're going to pack it in tight. Like I've got my stuff jammed in there. It's just hard to get to everything. I wish I had like 2 small ones rather than one giant one. I really do.
Yeah, I actually am convinced that now bigger is not necessarily better when it comes to greenhouses, because just managing the temperature. I mean, when we were designing it, I was like, oh yeah, we could have this really high ceiling and all this stuff. And I don't know why I wasn't just considering like the heat being important.
Yeah. Heat rises.
Yeah, you're considering like, what can I fit in here? And you're like, oh, this is great.
I wonder maybe if you install a fan, like a couple fans, like for circulation.
We have 2 fans in it. We talked about like cutting off, like basically getting something seasonal that we could like block off the ceiling area. My only issue is that here it could be 20 degrees one night, which would be problematic for that greenhouse, and then it could be 70 and sunny 2 days later. And so when I started thinking, okay, well, let's build a second greenhouse in here. Let's wrap up a shelf in plastic. I started troubleshooting, and I'm like, man, I'm going to have to put this up and take it down over and over again all throughout the season. And here's the truth. I won't do it. I will forget, and I will kill them all. And like, I was just like, let's have some insurance against ourselves here and not be optimistic with what I'm actually
especially towards the end of it. You just get sick of it. Like, I got most of what I need. The rest of them can just go, whatever.
Oh yeah.
How simple can you make your methods is definitely the key.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I have one thing, and it's definitely like we had a really cold winter here in Wilmington, and I think you guys probably did too in South Carolina. But like, I just waited. I do all my fig propagations in January, and I try to like make it through. And I waited till February, and I was like, "What's going on? I'm so delayed. This is going to suck." But it actually made things easier just to wait, just to get that little bit of edge of warmth. Yeah. That I didn't have to fight so hard for the whole month of January. And I might even do that next year, depending on the temperature. So
that's exactly what I've done the last couple of years. I could have easily started my tomatoes and peppers in like mid to early January, and then planted them out at a reasonable time. But because of that whole issue, I'm like, you know what? I got a 225-day growing season. I'll start my seeds in February. It'll be fine. And that's what I've done.
You got to meet yourself where you and the weather are at.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it just doesn't do any good to get the edge if you're then going to kill everything and be late restarting anyway. So
I know.
Burn yourself out. Yeah, burn yourself out before you even get there.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to spend all of January going out at 11 o'clock at night in my pajamas and robe to carry 8 seed trays in. I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound good.
That doesn't sound like fun to me either.
I've done that. Have I done that? Yes, I have.
Hey, we've all done that. I'm
not saying
this. Exactly. Sometimes the bandwidth isn't there. I'm just like, no, thank you.
Yeah, that's why I keep most of my seed starts and stuff in the garage under the grow lights, and then like the greenhouse is really for like just tropical stuff that I'll heat it if it gets below like 40. If not, I'm just gonna like I'll leave it alone. And I just got this little small space heater like Phil's has. Like everything in the greenhouse is pretty hardy. But we also don't get as cold as y'all do here in Texas.
Yeah.
It's like I can imagine we really only need a greenhouse like 3 months out of the year. Des, your greenhouse is probably too hot like most of the time. Like it gets really hot.
It's a shade house. It's my citrus house, to be honest. Yeah. I've got all my citrus trees in there because the sun will bake them to death. Yeah. Like literally. And they're in there, the bees find them and they're producing and it's fine. And I don't think I'll ever take them out of there again. Our summers have been 117 degrees with the heat index the last 2 years. And it has killed it. Like literally, I was so burned out last year about gardening and trying to fight the heat that I was almost like, I'm throwing in the towel. I give up. We're going full hydroponic inside the house. I don't know. Out there, I just reworked the garden and it is insane right now. It's doing so good.
Yeah, I saw, I think Bailey has one and then Joe Gardner has one of those Yoder built greenhouses. And I'm like, those are so cool. I just don't know if I would even utilize it that much. Like I had a greenhouse company, like a really nice one, reach out to me. And I asked them, I was like, are the panels removable? Because like I almost need to take all the panels off and put a shade cloth on top of them during the spring and summer, like 9 to 10 months out of the year. And they're like, well, no. And then it's only rated for like 40-mile-an-hour winds, and I was like, "This is not going to work for me." Like, we had 110-mile-an-hour winds during a hurricane, like a class 1 hurricane at 110-mile-an-hour winds. Like, I was like, "This is not going to work." So, like for me, it's just a hoop house with the plastic you can take off, and just I would love the day where I could actually have one, but like it's just I don't know that I would utilize it that much. I think people can get away with a smaller hoop house, and like you were saying, a smaller greenhouse. It's better to have your plants in there, like stuff stacked on top of each other, and they, the production of heat inside the pots with the decomposition, the BTUs is created. It's better to have stuff stacked in there, creating that heat than just have a bunch of open space. They say the same thing like during a hurricane. If like you're gonna lose power, stuff a bunch of bottled waters and stuff like that in the freezer because air. Well, all the empty spaces will just make it heat up faster.
So that's a great reminder.
Shade it is funny being a content creator that reaches obviously the country and the world. When people are dealing with such different conditions and when you are growing in a hot place, our season extension is less about figuring out what we're going to do when it's freezing outside and more figuring out what we're going to do whenever it is impossibly hot. Yep. And I mean, that we have 2 high tunnels, and yes, I'm able to grow like brassicas in them without thinking about it, like all winter. I could grow brassicas outdoors pretty much all winter. I might have to baby them a little bit on cold nights by covering them with some frost fabric. And then I'd have to go take it out in the day so they don't bolt under it during the day. So I just do it in the high tunnels. But really the high tunnels, I keep shade cloth on those year round. Even in the winter, they have 50% shade cloth on them because when I close them, when I close those in the winter, if it's 65 degrees outside, and that can happen very commonly on a winter afternoon. It'll be 100 degrees in there if I don't have the shade cloth on. So I close them with shade cloth on and everything grows steadily over winter. We don't ever take the shade cloth off. And those high tunnels are such a game changer growing through a South Carolina summer. Like all the nightshades thrive in there. Like that's where I grow peppers pretty much exclusively is under shade. And then my glass greenhouse, the one that doesn't really hold heat well in the winter, we put a 50% shade cloth on it too. I do take that one off for seed starting. But about this time of year, I put that shade cloth on, or else you couldn't even walk in there, for 5 straight months. And that's not going to work. If I'm going to even store my shovels in there, like I don't want to have to walk in a 140-degree greenhouse. I mean, it'd break everything down. So I shade it too.
I mean, my tomatoes. Yeah, my tomatoes and peppers my garden is covered in 40% shade cloth right now.
Yeah.
It will be for the rest of the season. I mean, I'm out there hand pollinating tomatoes at this point because we're humid and above 90 degrees. I want fruit set. It's not cute. It's bad.
Yeah, we only had 2 days over 90 so far. So I know you guys are hotter than us. But it's it's still hot enough here that by like mid-June is when the tomatoes stop setting fruit, unless you're getting involved.
Yeah. I plant a lot, like Des was saying, I keep a lot of my citrus under, they stay inside the greenhouse. And then when I take the plastic off, because it came with a kit. And so I reuse it every year. And if I left it out all spring and summer, it's not UV rated, so it's going to get destroyed by the sun. And then also my greenhouse is not technically anchored to the ground in any shape or fashion. It's just got a 4x6 frame. And so if I left the plastic on, rolled up with the end walls off, and we had 110 mile an hour, it might move it. It might.
Yeah,
have y'all seen the viral video of that greenhouse floating?
Yeah,
I'm jealous. Oh my gosh, I'm jealous.
Dude is just standing there watching this greenhouse. Yeah, lands on him. I'm like, my dream.
I'll send it to you, Jess. It's like one of those Temu TikTok like greenhouses.
I think I said, yeah.
And it's floating around. The guy's videoing it, and all of a sudden it comes down and hits him.
Oh my gosh!
It's freaking hilarious.
Pro tip: if the tornado looks like it's not moving, it's coming at you. And I suppose the same thing applies to greenhouses flying through the air.
Oh my god. Hilarious. Oh my god! Well, and Des is a storm watcher. She likes the storm YouTube channels too. So she's
such
definitely
a nerd about the weather. I'm not gonna lie. I had the radar up right here looking at it just now because we've got some like storms popping off. And I'm so into it. I don't know why.
I watch
you guys
Ryan
can just
Hall
sit on the
y'all
couch
all
and
the
watch
time.
Weather Channel for years.
Ryan Hall y'all is my favorite. I'm obsessed
Ryan
with the y'all bot.
I know.
I love
watch
that guy.
him a lot. I watch
Me
him a
too.
lot.
I can't watch stuff like that. Watching Twisters gave me like anxiety. Like I'll never forget.
Don't be scared.
This.
Be prepared.
there was a movie with The Rock called San Andreas, and it was like with like the earthquake in like California, and the whole movie is like different angles, like moving around and like upside down and stuff. And I literally left the movie theater with my wife. I was like, I am getting like nauseous watching this stuff. Like, I can't do this stuff. Like, this is too much for me. If I know there's a hurricane coming, I put my plants away, and then I just, get ready. I don't know. I can't.
I just leave it on in the background. It's my comfort show for some reason.
Yeah.
What's wrong with me?
I think if you live in a place where you deal with things a lot, you kind of just get so used to it that it just becomes another thing that you do. Like, it was really weird for me, like moving here after just growing up in Tornado Alley. Like, I don't feel anxiety about tornadoes, but like I've lived through some. I've even had very people close to me have losses through them. Like, I mean, it's touched my life, but still, I mean, my whole life, my entire childhood and everything. I mean, I don't know how many times I've been under a mattress in the hallway. Like, it's just a normal part of living in a tornado prone area. And then I moved out here, and I remember like watching as tornadoes were like hitting my hometown and different things like that, and being like, wow, it feels really weird to not deal with this. It was really weird. So yeah.
I'm hyper fixated enough that the weather, when it's going on, if they keep saying my hometown's name, I'm like texting my whole family, and they're like, we are adults and we are fine. And I'm like, I need to have some control over something here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, growing up here in Houston, like if there was a tropical storm or a hurricane, it just meant we had the day off from school, and we got to go, wading around the water and go dig in the ditches for like crawfish and stuff. Like, my wife's just from the other side of Houston, and whenever like Hurricane Harvey was coming, she was putting soup cans under the furniture. And I was like, babe, if the water's in the house, the furniture is the least of our concern. Like,
right? Why are we still in the house? Kind of thing.
Like they're cutting out drywall. They're going to trash this. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. So
that's like Wilmington too, where we're like, no one worries about it until, oh wait, Jim Cantori's here from the Weather Channel. We should probably leave now. That's like a canary in a coal mine. Oh, Jim wants to talk about the storm coming. Okay, we gotta go.
I love it.
Oh my goodness!
I don't know.
Good.
I don't know what I was just going to say. I'm just really actually nerdy about it. And I used to be nervous about it, but now I've kind of tried to, I've not tried, but I think I've been successful in transforming it into, I'm excited about weather. I'm excited about it because it is exciting and unpredictable. And there are so many things that are predictable about life. But that one thing is still, it's, it's not, I don't know. I really like it. Anyway.
Yeah. I go like full Lieutenant Dan where I'm like, on top of the shrimp boat, it's like.
Lieutenant Dan was mad.
Oh my God. So Jess, it's fully spring over there. You got everything out there. Is there anything you haven't planted yet? Is there everything in the ground already? Do you do mostly in the ground or raised beds or a combination of everything?
I do some of everything. I have found that I really like raised beds, and I used to be kind of sheepish about saying that because when I first started like making content and stuff, I kind of got some flag for growing raised beds and like not being a real gardener over it. What is up
There's
with
some
that?
purists
I've heard
out
that
there.
before too. I don't know. People are. I'm like, do you have heavy clay soil? It forces your root vegetables out. There's a benefit.
Yeah. And I've found I really like growing in raised beds. And so I have converted more and more spaces over to raised beds. My biggest thing I deal with is I have like killer Bermuda grass. Our land was raw. It was a cattle field for like years. And they actually cultivated the Bermuda grass there because they wanted it. And then I was like, I'm going to put a garden in the middle of this. And so that has been probably one of the bigger struggles. But I have a large raised bed area. We're establishing like a perennial berry area, and we've just been like planting everything out like within the last couple of weeks. We moved our asparagus into that, and I'm putting in some muscadine trellises to grow like muscadine grapes. And then I have an in-ground area that's like, I think it's about 40 by 60 or something like that. So that's at this point the only in-ground stuff I have. And then I have my 2 high tunnels, which we've got like 1 board high raised beds in those. It's like 6 inches high, but just to have a definitive start point for the beds so that I can handle the weeds a little bit better. And I have 2 26 by 60 high tunnels, and I rotate them. So like, because I can grow year round. So I'll have one that's like primarily like summer stuff that goes to the frost. And then I have one that I plant out like in September that goes through the winter. And then I flip them back and forth each year. So we have food in there year round. So yeah, I've got pretty much everything planted. And of course I'm doing a lot of succession sowing this year. I've always been a big canner, and I've always had the goal. I mean, since I started gardening, I want to grow a year's worth of food. I want to grow all our food. Yeah. And when we moved to South Carolina, it took me a couple years to be like, wait a second, like I can grow food year round here. Like I have the infrastructure to do that. And what I was finding is I would can all this stuff, and then I would still go out and pick whatever was in the garden. And so I'm still going to do some preserving this year, but I'm focusing a lot more on succession sowing so that there's always plenty to harvest so that I can just take it from garden to table every day.
Perfect.
That's amazing.
That's really cool. And I think I always tell people, even if I had, I got a small backyard and I grow a lot back here, but even if I did have a chunk of land, I would still probably do a lot of raised bed gardening just because most people don't know what it takes to like amend soil. Like it's a lot of work. You go to Froberg's like I was last week, and he's got to do a lot of stuff to that soil. He does a lot of, he's doing more regenerative stuff now, but like traditional gardening and farming, you got to do a lot of stuff to the in-ground soil, especially down here with the sandy it is, or as clayey it is, so I like what you're saying about, doing more raised bed, more like, sectionalized, and then having those passive means of, consuming. Like, I think people sleep on that way too much. Like,
oh yeah.
I was telling my dad, he's got his little orchard going. You can do a small orchard. Like if you had an acre or two, you can grow a lot of fruit, a lot of berries, a lot of grapes. You can do a lot. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've become the fruit hype girl this year because I am finally, 4 years in, and last year I got probably like a bushel of peaches off of a 3-year-old peach tree. And this year I've got 3 peach trees that are just loaded. I've got pear trees loaded. The mulberries are starting, and my figs are going to just kill it this year. I mean, like I'm looking at so much fruit. Yeah.
I was about to ask you, are you a fig girl?
I heard you say figs earlier. Figs are hands down my favorite food of all foods of all time. I love figs so much.
We heard it
and so I think I have like 9 fig trees, and I have spaces that I'm seriously considering putting more figs in, because I'm literally like, I cannot ever imagine a time in my life that I'm going to be like, this is too many figs.
Listen, I got you. We don't say no more. I'm driving out. I got 9 fig trees for you. So just
Bill's got the hookup.
I'm going on Google Maps. I found the fastest route already. There yesterday.
I love figs. And right now, well, one thing that we're doing this year is I have built my garden. I call it the garden belt. Okay, so it's kind of cheesy, but basically, when you come into my property, there's this long driveway. And when we first started, it's like, okay, we put this mobile home in the far back corner. And so we have like this 1,400 foot long driveway. And the plan was to build the house up in the front. We may get to that, but it's just not on the top priority. And there is a strip that's like, it's 80 feet wide between the driveway and my pasture, my main cattle pasture. And it goes all the way down. So when you first come in, it's the orchard. And then there's this 80-foot wide strip that goes down probably something like 700 feet, 800 feet, something like that. And in that strip is where I have both high tunnels, the in-ground garden, the berry garden, the raised bed garden. And then at the end, we had done some berries in there with like some permaculture pit swales. And I just like rued the day that we did that, because the Bermuda grass is just insane. The trees in there are doing great, but the berries we put in, it's not great. So we moved those out to that area I said we just planted. We just moved a bunch of stuff. And I'm thinking in that small area, I'm going to put in, that's what I was saying. I think I may put in a few more fig trees. They just grow so fast and they're so good.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of kind of like food foresting that area and like bringing in just a crap ton of wood chips and just like laying it real thick and spending the next like 10 years establishing that space in a really cool way.
I love that. No,
I love it.
I was blown away. Froberg had his tomatoes and he had 6 rows of 45 tomatoes, all in 15-gallon pots, planted in just straight wood chips. Like that's it.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. Well, and just literally wood chips, like not even like fully composted wood chips, like just wood chips. Because down here you want good drainage.
I guess if you're in a container, then that's fine. But I would hesitate to do that if you're not in a container with red ants or carpenter ants around here, because the ants love some wood chips. They get after my garden bad.
They're doing good in those pots. Like Broberg just posted a video the other day, and they're doing really good.
Oh, I saw it. Yeah,
and they're not discriminate about what kind of chips they drop off. Like they just dump off whatever they were grinding up, you know. So like, Bill, I know you want to talk figs, dude. I know you want to talk some figs, dude. I do.
Yes. I'm like, tell me about your figs, Jess. Like, what kind of figs you're growing that you're in love with?
I'll probably mess up the names and I might hurt your heart in this because I'm just non-discriminatory, everything. So brown turkeys are the ones that I was recommended do the best where I am. So I've got a few of those. I have one that's, I've got some that are like more reddish, some that are dark. And then I've got one that's kind of golden. I don't know all the names of them. But I want more. Like I love them all. As I said, like I don't know all of the names, but they are all just fantastic.
This is like, and you said you touched on something like I always tell people like all figs are good. There are some figs that are great, you know, like you can't go wrong with a fig. So I'm like, you're already at a great baseline. So anything from there, you're great. And so like my big thing is I'm trying to find cultivars that do well in our East Coast climate, but also that ripen from July all the way into November. And so we're not just stuck with that 2-week dump of figs that you get in August. But if you can have a fig that's in September, figs in October, and get that kind of that like you would have with an apple tree, right? And so there are some varieties out there. But I was really curious because like on the way you described figs, I'm like, oh my gosh, she gets it. She gets it. This is so cool. She gets it. And you know,
and you can't experience what figs are actually supposed to taste like if you're buying the fruit from the store. Like
100%.
apart from tomatoes, that's the only other thing. Like I always say, store-bought tomatoes taste like disappointment. And I would say store-bought figs also taste like disappointment because like they're just, you have to pick them at the optimum ripeness and eat them or use them pretty much that day or the next day. Like you don't have like a long window to really hit them at the exact right spot. And so it's not a surprise that commercial growers cannot get them to a store and to a consumer in that window. I mean, so you get ones at the store and it's like, it's not even the same thing.
Especially because 99% of the figs are grown commercially on the West Coast. And so they have to make that whole cruise. That's kind of my thing, like starting this like commercial figs on the East Coast. Cause I'm like, wait, figs are just growing around here. And there's no East Coast commercial production. I was like, I'll sacrifice a percentage of yield for humidity and things like that if we can just have it. But you touched on like the exact point. Like and that's why people are like, what do you do with your figs? I'm like, you can make jam stuff, but walking around with just my coffee and just my figs is like just right. Like every morning, go out there, and that's probably the best breakfast ever. But you nailed it. Like having fresh figs right off the tree is something very special.
I will just post up by the fig tree and just sit there in the soil. Eat them until I cannot handle it anymore. Like it is truly one of my favorite things to eat of all things. So,
if anybody in the chat is looking for figs, Phil does have plants for sale on his website, philsfigs.com. And also I want to share real quick because I just created the Facebook event for Figtoberfest 2025.
Figtoberfest.
So this is our second annual fig festival here in the Houston area. I shared the link if you want to go RSVP on Facebook to the event. It's a totally free event, October 4th, with me, Phil. Des is going to be there. And we're going to have Texting and AgriLife is going to be there. A lot of experts as well. So it's a free event. We're going to add more details. We're probably going to have some like cutting swaps, plant swaps, stuff like that. So if you're looking to come on down, that's a great time to come over and enjoy that. It's their second year. We did just the morning last year. This year we're going to do the whole day. So it's going to be awesome. And Phil is so excited. Phil had a lot of like fangirls and fanboys over here, like on the Houston Fig
sometimes
Exchange.
At those fig meetups, and I'm like, I'm just a guy that likes figs.
They're fig fans.
They're like, I was they're like, hey, I was like, hey, what's going on there? No, Phil. How's it going, Phil? I was like, we're in Texas. What is going on here, Phil?
I have a wonderful contingency in Texas. I have to thank you for that. For
you
sure.
do, man.
But my thing too is like I've been talking with people. It's already hot where you guys are, so I have to like ship my figs out faster because if they're waiting on the truck, they're gonna get cooked when I'm shipping.
I got figlets, Phil.
You got figlets, but I'm very, very grateful for the fig fam out there because like I was really late on getting my like email blast out, and I posted my figs up for sale, and people just started buying them. And I was like, I haven't announced anything yet, and I was like, getting down there, like I should send an email to other people asking. So there are some really cool varieties out there. I was really happy with how the propagations came out, despite starting in February. But Jess, you nailed it on the head of why I love figs, and like you could just. There's literally a story about the Paradiso fig, and it was a man in Genoa, Italy, and he sat under his tree, and he had fresh baked bread, and he ate figs from the tree, and he's like, I'm in my Paradiso, I'm in my paradise, and he just did that. And so you like literally retold your own rendition of that sitting on that fig tree.
I had coffee with it, so that's why.
That's even my Paradiso.
When I was a new gardener, I remember I didn't know what I was doing at all, but I didn't have any money or tools or skills or help. And many years ago, when my older boys were really little, I cultivated this garden plot in my backyard. I was so desperate to be a gardener. And then it rained for like 14 straight days. And I mean, it was like an agricultural upheaval for a lot of people who knew what they were doing. And it was really one for me. And I was battling these weeds, and I had just gone to the Home Depot and bought what plants they had. So I had like yellow squash, green zucchini, a plain red tomato, like just all the most basic stuff. And I remember like working one day and being like cut up, scratched up, but sunburnt, bug bit, all of that. And I had been working to save these squash from squash bugs and all those things. And I remember going to the store and there were squash, like the same type of squash I was growing. And, you know, of course, even the plain old ones would be 3 times as much now. But at the time, there was like 70 cents a pound or something like that. And I remember standing and having this like existential crisis in the entry doors of the grocery store, looking at this display with 79 cents a pound squash. And I was like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah. We've all been there.
I mean, I ended up giving up on that garden that year and getting very little. And years later, you know, I found heirlooms and all of the different things. And then I had experiences like eating fresh figs and homegrown tomatoes. And there is truth that, you know, you could grow a lot of stuff in ways that it's not that different than what you're getting from the store. Obviously, there's still benefit. I think it's still better to commercially or conventionally grow plain old things at home than be dependent on the store, because at least you're not dependent on anybody and you're cutting out the middleman. But to organically grow like beautiful things and pick them at optimum ripeness and have those unusual cultivars and all that stuff, like literally it's why I garden. It's why it's worth the work. And it's why whenever like I'm out there busting my butt, it's like, if I don't do this, I don't get Paradiso, you know, like I don't get that if I don't do this. And so it just, those kinds of things, and just fully reveling in the enjoyment of them. I am shameless in the enjoyment of my garden, because why the heck not, you know, like
right. When there's never a date you want to wait to start enjoying your garden space. Like it begins as you're gardening now. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not like, I think most people have a misconception. Like you don't get in, like you might get in the gardening to save money. And I'm sure you can garden much cheaper than like I do and save money, you know, but like, I definitely don't save money gardening, but it's more about the journey than it is about the destination. Like it's way more about being self-sufficient and knowing where your food's coming from rather than saving a couple bucks. Cause like whether or not, like, you know, there's a couple things that I, like you were saying, like Jess, like there's a couple things like I don't grow anymore because the juice just isn't worth the squeeze. Like Brussels sprouts, I eat Brussels sprouts 2 to 3 times a week and I can't grow enough Brussels sprouts to make it even worth it for me. But like squash, I can grow enough squash. Like I'll get so much squash in the first like 60 days, like here in the next like month. I'm gonna eat so much squash, I'll be sick of it for a year until next spring. Like, and I even found out you can pickle squash. Like I went to Froberg's and he had pickled patty pan squash. And I was like, well, that's an interesting thing.
Say that 3 times fast.
Pickled patty pan squash.
Peter Piper pickled patty pan.
We all tried.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's a hard one.
And I like what you said earlier about the canning. Do you still do a lot of canning, or like have you gotten into like the freeze drying? Because I know some people have got some freeze dryers, and it looks like it's a little time consuming, but it's a little more like laid back, you would say.
Yeah, so my viewers actually bought me a freeze dryer like before the freeze drying company started sending them to people and stuff like that. Like I had wanted one really bad, and in a live video, basically, my viewers like dared my husband to eat a raw tomato because he hates tomatoes, and they were like, what if we bought a freeze dryer? And he's like, yeah, right, if y'all bought a freeze dryer, I'd eat a raw tomato. And everybody starts sending $5, and within that live stream they had bought us a freeze dryer. It was wild.
Oh my God.
And the man ate the biggest tomato I grew that year. But I love it. So I've had it now for, I mean, it's been like 5 years that I've had it. I got right before COVID, and that I will say, I think canning, freeze drying, dehydrating, all of that, everything has its place, and it can all be beneficial. Like when you're talking about the juice isn't worth the squeeze, like there are certain things you can freeze dry, but I'm not going to freeze dry. Like it takes 3 days of running that thing, and it's not cheap to run. I mean, it uses a lot of power, and to freeze dry 5 quarts of broth. I'm not gonna freeze dry broth, because to make soup for my family, I need 4 quarts of broth, you know, like, so that's dumb, you know, but for things like fresh berries and cutting up fresh onions and jalapenos and things where it really saves you time later to have everything cut. So I can run a bunch of onions through my little slicer food processor, freeze dry them. And then I have all these freeze dried sliced onions. So when I'm making dinner fast and I want to throw some sliced onions in, all I have to do is throw them in the broth and they're going to reconstitute. It's really cool for stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that if you've got the budget to, I mean, they're expensive. I don't know what they are now, but I mean, it's in the range of between $2,000 and $4,000, depending on what size you buy. Like, they're not cheap. And I would say if you've got the budget and you can spend it on something like that, you'd probably find a lot of ways to use it. I've talked to a lot of people who are like single or a couple, and they use it way more because they can do lots of meals, and then they have 15 freeze-dried meals for one person or two people. For a big family, you know, it's probably not as functional. Canning, I still do a lot of canning. The thing is with that, there's certain things I love canning. That's what I do with broth. But I like eating fresh food. Like, so that's why I kind of made the shift to fresh eating. I'll still preserve when it's like preserve it or it's going to go bad. But I'm really trying to plant for fresh eating because I would prefer to eat fresh food. I love harvesting dinner and going to cook it. Like, that is my happy place. If I can go get it out of the yard and take it straight to the kitchen, I feel like I've won at life entirely.
You have.
Yeah. It's
confirmation.
amazing.
You have won at life. Your grocery store is outside.
So that's my goal. And then preserving the excess or where it makes sense, like having broth made that I can just dump out of a jar. That's awesome. Or having sliced onions that are freeze dried, or having dehydrated powders, you know, where I smoked some peppers and made, you know, chili powders and stuff like that. So I'm mostly doing the preservation stuff to create new products rather than to save, you know, excess stuff.
Well, and I think people might get caught up on the price of like a freeze dryer. Canning isn't cheap either. Like the price of jars has gone up considerably. Like I think pre-COVID jars were half the price they are now. Like
it used to be like $8.99 for a 12-pack of ball mason jars.
And
like $16.99 or at least, you know,
Yep. And so it's definitely gone up, and like people don't realize that behind me right here, that wall is not a brick wall. That's a 2 shelves with just jars in them. That's just jars. And you gotta find a way to store all that stuff, you know? So it's as much, if you do a lot of canning, you know, freeze dryer might be a good option, you know? But like you can definitely find different ways, like, you know, getting a good cookbook like that Martha Stewart one that I've got. Like, we found different ways to like preserve stuff, like our herbs. Like, I really wanted to like get into the herbs this year and start preserving more of those. We have an excess of zucchini. We start making zucchini bread. My wife makes a bunch of zucchini bread and freezes the loaves, you know, and like we just those literally, you defrost them, put them in the oven, and it heats right up. It's so good. It's like, just get creative. You know, if you have a ton of squash, you don't have to do fried squash all like, you know, for a week straight. You know, the other night we did air fried zucchini, like Parmesan, like cubed, like chunked up with Parmesan, like in the air fryer. It was so good, dude. And I grew up a picky eater too. I grew up a super picky eater, but you know, like I always said, like if I grow it, somebody's gonna eat it, but probably not me. But like now this year, it's like, if I grow it, I'm going to eat it. I'm going to find a way to eat it. And, you know, the squash and zucchini, I've really turned that around. Like, you can just throw some squash and zucchini on the Blackstone and be good to go. And it doesn't always like reheat the best, you know, like that's my thing. If I cook squash or zucchini, you got to eat it then. It's usually not best the next day. That's the only thing. So
I'm going to try that air fried Parmesan zucchini. We're definitely like in the glut of zucchini right now, and I cook it on the Blackstone a lot. Like I just do just slice it up, put some oil, salt, pepper, garlic powder, paprika, some cayenne, and put that on the Blackstone. It's really good.
Zucchini is my favorite right on the Blackstone. Or we do like the keto broiler, like it's the Parmesan. Like we'll take like the zucchinis and slice them kind of thick, and do like the Parmesan cheese. Like oh my god. And then the other one, we have the green grillers, which are kind of like a rounder zucchini. We'll cut those in half, and then you roast them, and then you take a spoon and you scoop out all the filling, and then you add like taco meat and make like a taco bowl out of the zucchini. Like that.
Yum.
Sounds good.
We actually haven't done that one this year. We should probably do that next week when we get back. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
sounds really good.
Bill, what are you harvesting on the garden right now, dude? A lot of basil, I'm guessing. A lot of basil.
A lot of basil. I had I grilled with friends over the weekend. We had like kind of a milder Sunday, Monday where it wasn't like scorching hot. And I literally had like I still had mustard greens left over. I still had some kales. My friend Catherine brought over her onions, and I was grilling sausages and burgers. And I have a cast iron. I have a traditional grill, so I have a cast iron that I put on the grill. And my friends watch me go into the garden, grab my stuff, like chop, 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 throw it in my cast iron pan with butter and garlic. My garlic's not quite ready yet, so I had garlic and then Catherine's onions, and they watched me just like cook it. And you all get that, and I find like love in that. And my friends were kind of just like that. That's where it's all. I'm like, yeah, right there. And it couldn't have been better. And the best part was too that I still had. There's a company that does sea salt harvesting from Wrightsville Beach here in Wilmington, and they have truffle. I have truffle, rosemary, and hibiscus from them. And I took the rosemary and I put it right in with those greens, the rosemary salt from Wrightsville Beach. And so like literally even the salt was local, and it was so like cool. All right there. Amazing. And just the hat. So that was recently. I'm doing bush beans for the first time. Haas Seeds I did their seed of the month, and I'm learning so much about everything else. I'm very much in like the fruit tree world. And I have another question for you, Jess, on citrus, because I went to Stan McKenzie and McKenzie Farms in outside Florence, who does hardy citrus. Yeah. But I'm trying to have fruit every month of the year on my property. And so, but now I'm getting into more of like the raised beds and doing the garden party. I've had so much inspiration, but now the seed of the month. So I'm learning things as I'm going now with all of these raised beds, but the brassicas I've dialed. Now I'm ready for the summer stuff. Now I'm ready for the cucumbers. Now I'm ready for all the hot stuff, peppers and tomatoes.
Okay, so if you're swimming in basil, if you're swimming in basil, here's something that you can do, and this is going to change your life. Okay, I share this like it's the good news.
I love
like
basil.
This is okay. Have you ever made tea out of it?
Tea.
Okay, so just now hear me out. Okay, you're going to be like, this is weird, and then you're going to be like, life changed. Okay, so basil, plain old basil, it can be any kind. So you know how when you're looking in seed catalogs and there's like 12 different kinds of basil, and you're like, do they taste that different? And you've grown them, and you can't necessarily taste like super profound differences, but they're nice, like mixed together.
They smell different more than they taste different.
Yes. Okay, but if you make them into tea, they taste drastically different. So your cinnamon basil or your lemon basil or mandarin basil or any of those. You can do this with Thai, with Tulsi, holy basil is fantastic. Purple basil, Genovese, plain sweet basil, any of them. Okay. And they're all different. So get yourself like a 1/2 gallon mason jar is what I use. I mean, you could use the pitcher if you want. And then put like a couple of handfuls of basil leaves, just fresh basil leaves. And it's going to fill up about 1/3 of the jar loosely, and then pour boiling water over that, put the lid on and let it sit there for 30 minutes. And then in another jar, put however much honey you want. You know, I mean, like we usually do like 1/2 cup into a 1/2 gallon jar, but if you like your tea really sweet, you could do more, and you could use other sweeteners too. I like honey. And then about 1/4 cup of lemon juice, and then strain that basil liquid into that, mix it together. The lemon juice will change its color, which is really cool. Sometimes on the purple one, especially, it goes from being purple to like being hot pink. It's really cool. And then cool it off and drink it over ice and thank me. Call me and thank me and be like,
I'm already thanking you. I'm doing that. That is so cool.
I'm going to have one of those like Castaway when he makes fire and he's like, I've made fire. Like, this is like,
because your garden feeds you. But one of the things that people don't realize is, you know, your beverages, you know, you want something nice to sip on in the summer.
That sounds amazing.
And
this summer.
Basil tea is so good. And then of course, from there, you can do anything. You were talking about wanting to get into more herbs. Oh, look, Melissa Shim said she made it for the first time. I talk about basil tea a lot. Like I'm enthusiastic about it, but I've been on a kick with lemon balm and mint and doing it the same way, just like steeping lemon balm and mint, and you shoot it right there in a 1/2 gallon jar, cool it off, and I keep herbal teas like that made throughout the summer. And it's nice because honestly, like, that was one thing my kids were always like, Mom, buy something to drink, like buy something. And we're big water drinkers. And I was like, you're fine, quit whining. But then I started making these herbal teas, and even my kids love them. Like, everybody drinks them. It's really good.
That's a cool idea. They even make those little like a glass like infusion, like you can put like stuff like the cold brew ones. You can just stuff them in there and let them steep in that.
Yeah, you could totally do that. Or like they make the glass pitchers that you bring it to a boil and then you just drop that thing in there and it sits. I mean, you could totally do that. I always just use the jars and strain it off, and then I just throw the leaves in the compost. And I mean, it's just like close loop right there, and you've got something great to drink.
And life is good.
Have you tried it with dried basil? Have you ever tried it with dried?
Yeah, you can do it with dried basil. Usually when I'm making tea with dried leaves, I just am making a cup at a time. But I've dried lots of basil. In that, I usually do put that in some sort of like bag or something like that. Like I get those real big tea bags, and I'll use that. Or or like a strainer, because it's just hard, little bits always end up in it. Otherwise, if you're using the whole fresh leaves, I mean, you can use stems and everything. You don't have to take the leaves off. I mean, just a big old bunch of basil, and that's it.
I'm super excited.
Yeah.
My wife, every time we find a new mint or a new basil, she gets it. So like I've got I got lemon basil, lime basil, I got Tulsi basil, I got holy basil.
They all taste so different as tea. I grew all the different ones for a while, and what I would do is I would just take all of them, dry them, and crumble them all together and call it basil blend. And it was really good. And there was lots of flavors, but mostly it just tasted like basil, maybe a little more like, medicinal, I guess. But when you brew them, like seriously, the lemon with the honey in it, and then you add some lemon juice, tastes like a lemon head. The cinnamon basil tastes super cinnamony. Like you really taste the flavors when you make a tea out of it.
Yeah, I used to.
I'm so stoked.
I used to plant it all. Now it comes back on its own.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I grow so much basil. I mean, especially since I learned about basil tea. It's only been a few years I've been making it. But yeah, I love it so much. I think that I know there's like an old video on Roots and Refuge, but I have my cooking channel too. And I have made like a step-by-step basil tea video on Farmer's Table. So if it really is as simple as I just told you. You don't have to watch a video, but if you forget something, you can look at that.
I love that.
Well, I'm just going to go and look at your, I don't think I've ever watched your cooking channel at all, because my husband does all the cooking in this house, but I'm trying to be better.
I'm trying to get better.
I'm the gardener. He's the cook.
I'm sharing the link for that right here.
Awesome.
That's awesome. So you have a whole other channel. I didn't know that.
I do. I started it about a year and a half ago, and to be completely honest, like I'm very lackadaisical just as a human, and the garden is very forgiving of that. And the kitchen actually is too, but teaching people in the kitchen is not. So I have to really hone in. And
people are so critical. People are so critical when it comes to like, anytime I've ever done like a canning video, like, oh my God, the canning police come for you.
Oh yeah.
You laugh, but dude, it gets crazy, dude. People are like
at the verge of violence over,
dude.
Touched your hair. You touched your hair while you cook that. And I'm like, you're not invited to eat it. Literally everybody in this house is either drank my breast milk or is my husband. What do you think? Does it matter?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Is this a commercial operation? No.
Dude, people are like, you're gonna kill people. You're gonna get people the bubonic plague. You're gonna like get someone killed by what? Like, it's so nuts. Like, you don't follow the ball canning guide to a T. You're an idiot. Like but you know what?
Oh man,
those videos do quite well. So I don't really care.
Yeah, seriously, like the canning police are intense, and I just always repeat myself, like, listen, use common sense, and if you don't have any, then get the ball canning book.
Yes.
Seriously.
And most of this is not for selling, it's for yourself. So like, if I'm gonna kill anybody, it's me. So don't worry about it. Like, if you don't see a video in 6 months, it was bad. You know,
it was me. You can go comment. I told you so.
And my wife go back. Y'all were right. He's an idiot. And she probably will. She'll probably do that for multiple reasons. But like, yeah, she can definitely go back and get. Yeah, you're right. He is an idiot.
Oh funny. My goodness. No,
truly, I had to get over that and get kind of a thicker skin to make cooking content. And things are also just so personal when it comes to cooking. Like I would say on that channel, I'm like, I don't know how much salt to tell you to put in your food. I don't know you like that.
Salt with your heart, season with your heart.
Exactly. How do you tell somebody how to salt their food? I don't want anybody to tell me how to do that. So I don't know. I keep it pretty lax there, but this year I'm really going to focus as the harvest is coming in on sharing what I'm doing with it, because I think a lot of people jump in to grow their food and then they're really overwhelmed because the garden grows ingredients and it doesn't come with instructions. And so it can be really overwhelming, especially when people are first getting into it. And a lot of people get into gardening because they want food security, but they don't actually cook, or they don't cook from scratch. And so they're not just learning how to garden, they're also having to learn how to cook. And that's hard. That's a lot.
And gardening is not like a hobby. It's not a hobby. It's a lifestyle. Like, you know, when it comes to a lot of, if you're trying to like supply like food, like people wonder like, hey, how do you have all this stuff? It's like, well, when you don't see me right now, I'm out in the garden. Like, you know, like I spend a lot of time out there, and it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort, and you kill a lot of plants in the process. You know, you're gonna kill plants. But
kill a lot of plants, then you'll learn how not to.
It's like
a green
like,
reaper.
Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers, like about getting your 10,000 hours of experience, and it comes out. If you were to do something 40 hours a week, it's like 4.5 years to get that 10,000 hours, right? So, it's putting in your licks and enjoying it and giving yourself grace and going out there and like. We've all been there. I always tell people like I've killed more fig cuttings than all of you combined.
Oh
yeah.
I have a fig cutting graveyard.
and at the end of the day, people are just gonna call you an idiot on the internet anyway. So it doesn't really
man, so true. So many times I've been called an idiot.
I always
oh, where's your content?
I don't claim to be an expert. Y'all are just along with my journey, and I'm sharing with you what works for me. Like I'm not, you know, a master gardener. I'm not any of that. You know, like I'm just a guy who gardens. This is what works for me. Hey, I killed this. It's not working.
Garden guy.
Just a guy in Texas gardening.
You can be a master gardener and you can still grow something, you know, amazingly easily well that somebody else cannot grow. Yep. You know what I'm saying? And they'll be like, you know, I'll be like, oh, I grow the most excellent tomatoes. And they'll be like, I kill every tomato, but peppers, I got these. Or like carrots, I got those, you know, but it's, you know, everybody's an expert in what they're nerdy about, I think, in the gardening community, which is something I think is so cool.
It also
and then
changes
the rest of you learn
year
through
to
experience.
year. Like there are so many factors in gardening that we just cannot control. Like the weather does not let us know what it's going to do. And I have some years that like I will just completely kill it on something, and the next years I'll hardly get any. And I mean, I know what I'm doing. Like I have the proof to show like I do know how to garden, but then there will be years that something just doesn't work out right, or you know, some unforeseen circumstance happens. And I think really you know that you've kind of started to really firmly be a gardener and a good gardener when you understand like you're a gardener, not just a person with a garden, and therefore it's a year-to-year thing. And if you just stick with it, you're gonna get a lot of stuff like that. You will get harvest.
And you'll definitely
this year is going to be terrible for me for cucumbers, but apparently it's a good year for Destin for cucumbers. And last year it was an excellent year for me for cucumbers.
Yeah.
I just harvested like another dozen tonight, Des. I just harvested a ton.
Wow, you guys are way ahead of me.
Mine are flowering, but they're not.
I don't have many cucumbers yet. They're just now starting to set their fruit, so I'm behind y'all.
Okay. Yeah.
I did a new variety this year from row 7 that I've never done before. I usually do like the Armenian stripe when it starts warming up. So I'll do another round of cucumbers when it starts warming up quite a bit. Yeah, because the Armenian stripe or the Asian stripe, whatever people call them, they can handle the heat a lot better, it seems like. But these little
I have those for heat because they're actually Armenian cucumbers are actually a melon, and that's why they don't freak out whenever the heat comes. So that's a very good like late spring variety for people in the heat.
Yeah, they're like a muskmelon or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's kind of nice because they're not prickly. Like I was harvesting cucumbers today, and I reached in, I reached in and grabbed one. I was like, "Ow!" I forgot. Like sometimes they're really spiky, but like the muskmelon.
What's the Row 7?
Fuzzy.
What's the Row 7 variety? What's it called?
So
y'all being in hot, there's one called Silver Slicer, and I got the seeds originally from Hudson Valley Seed Company, and it is so forgiving of heat. It's white. Ooh. It's a white skin, and it's called Slicer, and you can let it get like slicer size, but I harvest them like small and do pickles with them, and they totally hold up to that, and they stay good tasting like after all the other cucumbers. Now the Armenians are kind of a cheat because they will still taste good like after all your other cucumbers are dead, and the Silver Slicer does have a limit, like it goes longer than the others, but the Armenian still outlasts it.
These are the 70 just the typical but I've had really good success with a lot of their seeds, and it's just a good pickling cucumber. And I had some questions. People were like, how do you know when to pick a cucumber? Like you can pick a cucumber at any point. Like, I when they were starting like to get yellow, that's when you probably waited too long, you know, but like they're usually pretty bitter, and some cucumbers like it early spring, and some cucumbers like it in the middle of summer. It's just some of them will taste more bitter than others. It's just finding the variety that works for you, like that silver. What was one you called?
Silver Slicer.
Silver Slicer.
I've had that one, and I think I've had that one, and then I've also had the Bait Alpha is a really good one.
Really I planted those this year. I planted some Bait Alpha. They haven't come on yet. I put them in my high tunnel, so I'm excited to try them.
Yeah, these are nice. But I remember someone telling me that like there's different kinds of cucumbers. Some that grow better in the spring have like this. It's either one or the other. The ones that grow earlier in the spring do better in the early spring, have like smaller leaves or big leaves, and the ones that grow in the middle of summer have I forget which one it is, if it's which way or the other, but like one of them has a small leaf and one of them has a big leaf. Is that right, Des? Does that sound right to you?
I'm sorry, I was answering somebody in the chat. I'm not sure what I know we were talking about cucumbers, but Susie pointed out that master gardeners also mess up. And I was like, yes, I am one. I do mess up all the time. It's fine.
Oh yeah. No, I've had people literally comment on my videos like, he's not even a master gardener. Why are we listening to him? It's like, man, okay, whatever. I don't have.
You didn't go through a volunteer training program for like you didn't have you know what I mean? Like people are so. You can master in gardening being in a garden. That's all you need to do is master through experience. You don't have to have a certification of any kind.
Yeah, I think more than anything, people just need to get out there and get their hands dirty. Get out there and because I mean, what works in my house may not work at your house. Like it literally from one house to the other backyard, the soil could be differently. It's like it really depends. People ask me how often should I water my garden? I was like, I can't tell you how often you should water your garden.
It depends.
It's like you need to go out there and put your hands in the dirt and put your hands in the soil and feel how moist it is. I get so many comments about like calling it dirt. I'm like, once I buy it, I can call it whatever I want. Like it's dirt.
It's mine.
Like I was like, Real quick before we end it, I've been asking this question to all the guests this year, and what are you growing this year that you've never grown before? Something new, like a new variety of something, new fruit tree you're going to plant, or do you typically do the same things?
Oh no, I want to grow everything all the time. I got these bean seeds I found some person had on Etsy. So I just like rolled the dice and did it. And they're called sword beans or Jack and the Beanstalk beans. And if you look up sword beans, you can see them. But the beans were like this big. Like
you literally bought magic
beans were that big. Oh my God.
It's insane. Like it was there were a few of the seeds in my hand. Whoa. Yeah. And so you can harvest them small and eat them. or you can let them get huge and marvel at them, apparently, I guess is what. But I have a farm, so I have animals I can give things to, like I can grow fodder things. And so I just
your
needed
kids can hit each other with them. I mean, like with like swords,
so
like literally.
I just had to know. Like, do you ever have something in your garden you're like, oh, this is gonna make a mess or this is gonna be chaotic? And I'll just sit there and look at it and I'll contemplate pulling it out, and then I'm like, nah. See what's gonna happen. So I'm excited about the sword beans.
It's artichokes for me this
crazy.
year.
Yeah, you're growing artichokes for the first time. That's awesome. I grow artichokes and they're fantastic. They're beautiful plants. I mean, they're just so cool looking.
Well, I wanted to see if I could grow them from seed. So I did the stratification. I put them in the freezer and started them over winter in the garage, and and I even set them out as seed starts, during like a cold freeze a little bit, so they'd maybe experience a mild winter to get those blooms. So we'll see if I get any. I know I overplanted them. I put 3 of them in like a 2x2 round raised bed. I was like, that's way too many, but I figured whatever the biggest one is, I'll cut the rest of them out.
Well, and they're kind of like anything else. They'll grow that close together, but your buds will just be smaller. So you'll just get smaller ones. Like if you give them space, the plant itself, like I have one that, I mean, it's massive. I mean, it's probably at least 4 feet across in its widest point. But being in a warm place, like they're pretty dang hardy. Like they can live through a freeze and they will come back or reseed. Like I got tons of volunteer artichokes. Like I gathered some of them up and moved them into my high tunnel. And I mean, I had to rip some of them out, but I usually let a couple of the buds go to seed, and they'll just keep coming back. I love artichokes. I love growing them, and they're just wild looking. They're really cool.
Yeah. I like them for like the pollinators and for like, roasting them, the hearts and everything. Like the first couple of artichoke like flowers I get, I'll just let them go to seed. Probably I'll let them kind of bloom just to kind of experience, like, see how it goes. But my dad has a whole space. My dad has 100 acres. And so he has little heads that he did okra in last year. And I was like, hey, let's do a perennial bed and let's just plant artichokes. I planted like 20 artichokes along his fence line.
That's awesome.
And so that he'll get a bunch of artichokes or the cows will eat them. So we'll see what happens. But I did not realize how spiky they are. Like, man, they can get spiky. They're like thistle. They're in the thistle family, right?
Yeah. The first year I grew a bunch of them. I had one when I was in Arkansas, and we ended up having like a negative 10-degree night, and that's what finally ended up killing it. But I mean, the freezes would just kill them back, and they would just come back. So I mean, they're pretty resilient. But that really cold night did them in. But when I came here, I was like, I'm going to put them in my high tunnel. And I put like 10 in a row. And I was like, after the first year, they got so big, and they were like threatening to rip the high tunnel plastic when I lowered it down. So I had to take them all out. But I like where they are now. We're good now. They're really intense. They'll like cut you, like scratch you. I think they have skin. They're really tough.
The leaves are so Jurassic looking. I love them.
Well, I have to get in there, and like when I'm trying to weed eat and mow around them, like the bed, I just go in there. I start chopping, like and they seem to be okay. Like they like a little pruning. That in my greenhouse, I put that 20-foot raised bed in there that goes the whole length of my greenhouse. I planted my pineapples, the ones that I had grown from the tops of a pineapple. I put them in the actual raised bed. So hopefully, it takes a couple of years to get a pineapple. I follow a pineapple pineapple page on Facebook, and people really get it. Like if there's a plant, there's a group of people who are excited about growing them. And pineapples are a group. Like people love pineapples. People love growing pineapples. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I've never grown a pineapple before, so that's on my list of things to do. This year it's the sword beans.
That's awesome.
I'm trying to think of anything new.
I get so giggly about a huge vegetable, and I definitely saw you guys pull up that giant beet the other day.
Oh yeah,
I think it was monstrous. I don't know what that was. It was like this big.
It was just a regular beet that had been there for a really long time. I mean, it was like this big around. Like it was huge.
Yeah.
It weighed several pounds. And
you guys
at that point they're full of like big holes and they're super woody and stuff. So I mean, we just gave it to the animals. But Yeah, it was wild. Because I do have so much space, there will be random things that kind of get away from me. And that's what happened with that beet. It was one that like I had, I'll like tuck in 3 or 4 seeds here or there. I'll end up with like one beet growing in some random place. And then I won't see it when it's like time to pick things. And when they get big, like when they get past the point that I really want to use them, then I get real curious. Then I'm just like, how far could this go? So I've been letting that beet go, and it finally started going to seed like last week is why I pulled it out. And because I just wanted to see how big it would get.
It got huge. It was massive.
So cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
You let the beet drop. You literally
I did. Literally.
Yeah, something that I'm kind of just leaving alone right now is my tomatillos. Like I've grown like one tomatillo plant before and I got a lot of tomatillos. This year I planted 3 in like a small space, and the bush of tomatillos that I have back there is like I could go in there and cut half of it out and it would still be a lot of time. Like they get crazy. But there's so many tomatillos, but I noticed that my mockingbirds are hanging out over there, and I've had some that are getting close because when you get tomatillos are starting to get ready, the tomatillo inside the little sack will start getting hard, and then the sack will start to dry up and crack open a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing the mockingbirds have figured out when they're 100% ripe because they've been hanging out back. I know why they've been hanging out by my composter because they're getting my tomatillos, I think. So I gotta be a little more. I gotta be a little more vigilant, but they're hard to find. They're like it's so bushy.
Yeah,
it's hard to see them. It's crazy. But the bees love them. The bees are all over them. They're so wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got 4 plants together, tomatillos, and it is absolutely insane how massive they've gotten. And I haven't harvested anything from them yet, but I was like, oh, I might have overdone it on this because there's so many.
I love tomatillo salsa. It's like,
oh, me too.
My husband's been making it like fresh at home. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's every year for me. It's like, oh, I might have overdone it.
Yeah.
I might have overdone.
That's pretty much how I look at my garden and think since I've started gardening every year, it's like, this might have been a little optimistic, but then the thing is that I'm also simultaneously like looking at empty spaces, being like, what can I plant in there? So
right. Finding what grows best where, like it might just not be a spot for one, and you accidentally find something else that just thrives in another spot, and like the experimentation's real, like finding out like how things behave and grow.
And you really you love the food, but it gets to the point when you just really fall in love with gardening that it's that experimentation. It's trying to figure out what will work. And like, let somebody say never do something in the garden. And guess what? The first thing I'm going to do is when people like never plant these things together. If they can't tell me why, you better believe I'm going to plant these things together just because.
I love it. I love that.
I love companion planting. I love packing it in there. I love making it like bushy and cottage fluffy garden. Yeah. This year, every time I go outside and I see an empty space, I've got a pack of seeds and I keep popping something else in there. But it's like a mystery because I don't remember where I planted anything. I'm chaos sowing. Yeah. And so things are popping up. I mean, I am thinking about in relation, like what the plant is in relation to where I'm sticking it in the garden bed. I'm not just like, so at the time I am doing it right.
You're cognizant at the time, but later you look down and you see a plant and you're like, who are you?
That's my favorite. I'm like,
what do you do?
Oh, I planted okra right here. Wow.
I'm pretty OCD, but it gets to a point where like you can't even see the label anymore because it's so bushy. Like it doesn't matter how many labels you put in there because you can't see the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
And then weed control, like thank God my wife is a teacher and she's off during the winter or during the summer because like she'll go out there and she's like, I need to get a tan. I'll throw a tank top on and go out there and she'll go for like 2 hours just pulling weeds. And she'll do that. She'll do that a couple times a week. And God, it saves me so much time and effort. Like people like Well, no, but he I saw him build your raised beds though, so he's
under duress, No,
he's an indoor cat, but he does some outdoor stuff. I've seen
copy.
But it's so much easier when you have a family or a spouse there helping you do a little bit of that work, and and you have your family there. 6 kids, that's a lot of kids. Like what are the ages?
So yeah, we're getting to the point where we're launching some, so I don't have them all at home. My oldest is my stepdaughter, and she's about to be 20. My oldest son, Jackson, just finished his freshman year at college. He's 19. And then Asher just graduated high school this last weekend. He's 18. And then, so at this point, we're almost like Asher's going to a different university. So I'll just have my 3 little boys at home, and they are 13, 12, and 10. So it's wild, but they're actually huge helpers in the garden. My kids are also all very motivated by making money. And so like, if I need stuff done, I can be like, hey, mom's hiring today. Get out there and work.
Who's the cameraman today? Who's the cameraman?
So they do good. They help a lot with like, weed eating and stuff, and like keeping everything tidy. My youngest son, Ben, he was 3 when I first started making YouTube content, and really he's just like my Velcro kid. He like just always loves to be with me, and he actually could pretty well garden without my leadership. Like he can prune tomatoes. He can do a lot of the stuff that like, some adults don't know how to do because he's just been doing it his whole life. So he's actually probably been my biggest help in the garden. But they can all pull weeds and weed eat and stuff like that. And they do help, which it does make a massive difference. Going out and having, the daunting to-do list kind of knocked in half really kind of puts wind in your sails to get the rest of it done.
Yeah.
I saw somebody asked about cucamelons. What were you going to say, Phil? I can add.
No, it's not what you're describing. I cannot wait for the day because my kids are all 6 and under. So it's like, right now it's 2 jobs, and then to have the kids actually help you with another job that you're doing in the garden.
Oh yeah.
Sounds like the most beautiful thing of all time to share that space with them.
So my son, Ben, the one who is actually very much a big help now, when he was really little, when we were in the garden, when he was like 3, he would want to do what I was doing. And he was one of those kids that like, if you tried to like make up some job that he didn't think was legitimate, he would know that you were like pulling one over on him and giving him not real work. And he wanted like a real job to help. And so I gave him real pruners, and the grass would grow up kind of around the raised beds, and we would weed eat it, but we would have these little tufts of grass. And so I gave him this job of pruning the grass, and I would give him the pruners, and I would show him how to put his hand behind his back so he didn't accidentally clip his fingers, and like go through. And he spent 2 summers pruning the grass in my garden until he realized that he saw one day them weed eating, and he was like, wait a second. He was like 5 years old. But the thing is like, I was actually able to teach him to prune tomatoes at a pretty dang young age because he had the skills of using the pruners very effectively from pruning the grass.
Oh, so very cool.
It is hard to have a toddler or a preschooler or even an elementary student or child in your garden, but it can be done as long as you have reasonable expectations. He also one year while I was planting tomatoes, he was probably 2. I got to the end of the tomato rows, and I just planted a 48-foot row of tomatoes, and he handed me all of the tags that I had marked each. It was like 18 different varieties. And he handed me all of the tags, and he's like, here, Mom. And he had just gone behind me as I was planting and putting the tags in and just plucked them all out. And I was like, thank you.
I had the things like that, and they picked them all out, and they started making things with it. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, that was a fun year because I knew what I planted, but I'd had to fruit for me to know what was what because I didn't know what any of my tomatoes were.
That's always that's always like nightmare fuel when I'm out there gardening and I look on the ground. There was a label, and I'm like, oh no, where did this come from?
Where do you go?
It's like, oh, I'll never find this. Like you're saying, just someone was asking about cucamelons. I haven't done cucamelons in a couple of years. They're kind of a pain in the butt unless you have space for them to climb, and you really need to space them out quite a bit because they can like grab each other and make a giant cluster, and they're kind of hard to find. Like searching for them is kind of a pain. Like, do you grow a lot of those?
They are. I actually don't have them in my garden this year. That wasn't intentional. I thought I had some volunteering, and I thought that's what it was. And I was like, oh, awesome. And I left it. And I don't know if the roly-poly, I had really bad roly-polies this year. So I don't know if they ate those or what, but I went back and what I had seen was gone. And I thought, well, more will come up. And then they didn't. So this is the first year in a long time I haven't had them. If you're really trying to grow food, I would not put them on the top of the priority list. They're mostly just kind of like a novelty thing. They're fun. They're cool. They are sour. I would say tart. They're like lemony. Yeah. It's not like a bitter sour. It's more just like a really tart. But they're cool. They kind of pop when you bite them, kind of like a grape. But they're very fiddly to pick. They're fairly impossible to actually preserve, and they grow really thick. I like them because I have space, and my kids like them. The only like very practical use that I have for them is that I'll make quick pickles in these cute little jars and then put them on like a charcuterie board. Like that's what they're cool for. But you pretty much have to quick pickle them and put them in the refrigerator, because if you can them, they just turn to mush. Like, so, you know, if you've got the space, you want to grow something cool. Yeah, they're cool. I mean, they're very unusual, but they grow wild here. Like we were at the zoo, and we're like going by the seal exhibit, and my kids are over there picking something off, and I see one of my kids eat something. I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? They're like, Mom, there's cucamelons growing here. I'm like, don't eat that.
It might just look like a cucamelon.
So they do grow wild here. They're all over the place. You'll see them wild, so it's pretty cool. But
Destin also eats strange berries.
I do. I did grow some. I started them too early this year because the seeds take a long time to germinate. The seeds are really tiny, and they take like probably twice as like regular cucumbers germinate really fast. Cucumber, squash, zucchini. The cucamelons, they take a long time, maybe like 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah. And so I started them a little earlier, and I started them too early. So I had like a dozen or so little ones in a tray, like in early January. And like I was way too early. And then I didn't have the seed packets. And my wife was like, "Did you plant the cucamelons?" Like, yeah, I did, but they're dead now. And I don't feel like ordering another pack. So like, we'll wait till next spring. Because like she likes them, like you were saying, for fridge pickles. You do a fridge pickle, you know, for a couple of weeks, and you pull them out, and then you can put them like the nieces and nephews love them. Yes. If we could just buy them from the grocery store and do them like that, just for like the nieces and nephews, that's what we should do. Like they're not the space and trying to find them in the clusters. It's a pain in the butt. And,
they're hard to see a little.
But well, guys, I really appreciate you being on with us tonight, Jess. We had so much fun. The time flies by on the garden party.
Yes, it does.
I love it.
Real quick, let everybody know what you got going on. Do you do events? Do you do meetups or anything? Do y'all do anything like that?
Right now I've got the Homesteading Festival in Tennessee that I'm heading to beginning of next month. So that's exciting. And then, of course, we're Roots and Refuge on all platforms. I have a podcast which talks a lot about kind of the homesteading life, and then I also have the cooking channel, Farmer's Table. So I'm making a lot of stuff. It's out there. You can go to rootsandrefuge.com and kind of see the landing page for all of those things. But yeah,
awesome. I'm gonna put the link for your site right here. I put it in the comments as well. I think it's right. It's the right link. Well, I really appreciate it. Me and Des are going to be at Smith's Garden Town, Wichita Falls. I'm leaving tomorrow because we're going to go do stuff in Oklahoma. So that's going to be exciting. So I will see Des, and I got a surprise that I got for her at a nursery in Wimberley, actually.
I'm so excited. I don't know what it is.
Are you're close to Wimberley?
I am.
Des is,
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I've been down there a handful of times.
It's nice. It's really
nice.
I love
really.
It was really pretty. And Phil will unfortunately not be there because he's got more important things to do as the hobby greenhouse president, right? Is y'all have something this weekend, Phil?
Not this weekend for that, but just life.
Just
life has gotten me recently, but I'm juggling it all.
Oh, you're good,
feel
dude.
that.
No,
Well, Bikram Plant Prof will be there as well.
yes. And I'm sharing the link for the
Doesn't mean I won't
Facebook
have
event.
FOMO.
We'll make sure to do all kinds of content stuff, make you jealous. So,
yes.
But make sure to go to philsfigs.com to go buy some fig. He's got rooted cuttings right now, so go there and buy some cuttings and make him be busy this weekend with all the shipping he's got to do, all the logistics.
Yeah, for real.
My garage is
he's
covered.
Not gonna hang
all
out
my
with
surfboards
us.
are covered in just fig trees. Come on now.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much. Make sure you go follow Jess, follow Gardening with Des. Des hit 10K. Des hit
on
10K
Instagram. Yeah, I did. Yay.
Yeah, congratulations.
My goal is to try and match my following on TikTok with my following everywhere else. So
there you go.
I finally hit 10K there, and I only have 150,000 more to go. So
there you go. And today was my last day at my regular job, and I start my job with Nelson Plant Food next week. So that's gonna be awesome. And I also hit 300K on Facebook today. So we're gonna celebrate this weekend. So thank you. But appreciate y'all hanging out with us all evening. Make sure to go follow everybody, and we'll see you next week on the garden party. Bye, guys.
Bye.